Let's try this again. Good evening. Welcome to the Council Candidates City Council Candidates Forum, and it is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto, and I'm the president of the league. My name is Ellen Forbes. I want to thank you for coming out to hear from the people who will help lead our city for the next 4 years, as well as from their challengers. The League is a nonpartisan political organization whose mission is to engage citizens in active and informed participation in government. Not just active and not just informed, but both. The League does not support or endorse candidates or parties. The League also studies issues, takes positions based on those studies, and advocates for those positions. This forum, funded by the League Education Fund, through contributions from members and community donors, is devoted entirely to our voter service activity. We are most appreciative for the participation of our many co-sponsors. In alphabetical order, they are the AAUW of Palo Alto, Avenidas, Mid-Peninsula Community Media Center, Palo Alto Chamber of Commerce, Palo Alto Council of PTAs, and the Palo Alto Weekly and Palo Alto Online. For more information on the elections, we recommend that you visit smartvoter.org. That's smartvoter.org. Or the League website at LWVPaloAlto.org. Please pick up a copy of the Voter's Guide in the back of the room, as well as the current Facts for Voters. The facts, of course, will be updated after this election, but there is still, in this edition, a lot of very useful information. I have one announcement that there is a dark gray Volvo wagon whose keys were still in the car as of several minutes ago. So if that sounds familiar, you might want to look. It was parked right outside the door. The candidates' campaign materials are on the tables outside the room. Please stay after the forum and meet and talk with the candidates personally. And now I'm pleased to turn the microphone over to our moderator for tonight's forum, Eleanor Yick of the Southwest Santa Clara Valley League of Women Voters. And Eleanor, I want to thank you for coming all this way from the south to help us out tonight. So, welcome.
Thank you, Ellen. I accepted doing this tonight because it was a challenge. 12 candidates for 5 seats. This is a challenge to handle it well throughout the evening, so I hope I do a good job. This forum provides the opportunity to hear from the 12 candidates who are running for 5 seats on the Palo Alto City Council. They are seated in the order that they chose at the beginning of the forum. Seated in number 1, and if you just raise your hand, we have Ms. Quo. Number 2, Mr. Johnston. Number 3, Mr. Douglas. Number 4, Mr. Dubois. Number 5, Mr. Wolbach. Number 6, Ms. Holman. Number 7, Mr. Reddy. And number 8, Mr. Scharf. Number 9, Mr. Frederick. Number 10, Ms. Shepard. Number 11, Mr. Weiss. And number 12, Mr. Philseth. Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to go over the format of our session. We are scheduled to be finished by 9:30. And to help keep us on a track, we have our timekeeper, Larry Lovercheck, right here in the front. Raise your hand. He will signal candidates. Thank you. He will signal candidates with a yellow sign telling them it's 30 seconds left, and a red sign when your time is up. The candidates have all received the ground rules, and there are also ground rules for our audience, so I'm going to review them very quickly. The audience. The questions to the candidates must be written on cards provided by the League at the forum, which will be circulated by volunteers in the audience. Questions will be directed to all candidates. Secondly, we request no audience demonstration, clapping, hissing, during the forum. We ask that you turn off all electronic devices. Anything that puts out light or makes a beep, we would like you to turn that off. And we ask no cameras or photo-making devices may be used during the forum. Now for our candidates, and they have also received these prior to the forum tonight. There will be no substitutes or stand-ins for the candidates. If a candidate is unable to attend the forum, they may arrange for a League member to read an opening statement. We don't have that tonight. Candidate responses should pertain to the question at hand. The moderator may interrupt a candidate if she believes the candidate is straying from the subject. The moderator will enforce time limits. The time signals consist of yellow and red cards. The yellow card is shown to indicate 30 seconds remaining. The red card indicates that the candidate should stop speaking at the end of your sentence, a short sentence. After the moderator says, "Thank you, your time is up," the speaking candidates will stop. Next, candidates will not interrupt each other. Number 5, candidates have brought no props into the room with them. The League has provided each candidate with a paper pad and pen for taking notes. Some of them have notes that they have used for their opening statements and so on. Campaign material may not be displayed within the forum room. The League will provide tables outside the forum room for candidate materials. We will be taking questions throughout the forum. This allows us to cover as wide a range of issues as possible and to be sure that questions are not speeches and are not partial for or against any candidate. Question collectors are positioned around the room with cards and pencils. Where are you? There's one here, a couple in the back there. So if you have a question, raise your hand and they'll come and give you a card and a pencil. Please use the cards provided. We will be giving all candidates the opportunity to answer each of the questions. Our question sorters tonight will review the cards and group them by topic. Helping us are Phyllis Cassell and Susan Usman over here. We will begin our forum with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate in the order that they selected to begin. And just to inform the candidates, your closing statement will be in the reverse order. Following opening statements, each candidate will have an opportunity to ask one other candidate a question. The time limit for the question is 30 seconds, but the response is a minute, and then the person who asked the question can have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. We will then have questions that we have collected from the audience. Candidates will be called on in varying order for each question. I have a random sheet up here. That's why we needed to have the names and the numbers. And they will have 1 minute to respond. I remind the candidates, you can make shorter answers, and that might help us to get to more questions. We will then have a closing statement from each candidate of up to 2 minutes. Candidates will speak in the reverse order. One final note. In the interest of time, and so that we can keep this a nonpartisan environment, we ask that there be no applause or demonstrations of support or opposition to the candidates or their positions. At the end of the forum, we will thank all of them for coming this evening. So let us begin with our opening statements, and number 1 is Ms. Koo. And I think it would be helpful, particularly for your opening statement, to stand.
Thank you. Good evening. 2 years ago, I would never have imagined myself here. What happened? The Maybell project that became the Measure D referendum. I started by pushing out better information to my neighbors and became increasingly upset about how their serious and legitimate concerns were not being listened to, and that continued even after the election. My experience as a leader of that effort led me to here. This experience built upon my leadership in the citywide emergency preparedness effort. I learned how to deal with City Hall. I learned to work with other civic organizations. I learned how to recruit and volunteers and keep them active and engaged. I learned about creating the culture needed for an organization of over 400 people. I am a residential realtor. My clients want to move to Palo Alto. So I'm constantly listening to them about what they see that is good and bad about our city. It also means I am constantly out and about throughout the city throughout the day. Although you may joke about realtors, concerns about conflicts of interest and fiduciary responsibilities have become a reflex for me. With this, it may come as no surprise, my top priority is changing culture at City Hall to one that listens meaningfully to residents throughout the process, starting at the earlier stages. It is a false choice to say the only alternative to a current situation is no growth. I believe we need to manage growth. We can't let growth overwhelm our infrastructure, our city and community services, and our schools. And we certainly can't allow developments that understate the impacts on the community. We need to carefully track cumulative impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnston?
My name is A.C. Johnston, and I want to thank the League for inviting us here tonight, and I want to thank all of you for coming to listen. I grew up in the Midwest, a small town outside of Chicago where my dad was the city attorney and later a state legislator. I went to school for college and law school on the East Coast and spent 4 years in the Navy on a submarine. And then my wife and I realized there was something else. We could move to California. So we moved to San Francisco. I joined a law firm in San Francisco. I'm proud to say that after 40 years, nearly 40 years, I'm still a member of the same firm. That firm in 1985 came and asked me to open an office for the firm in Silicon Valley. I came down, I looked around, I realized we had to be in Palo Alto because Palo Alto then and now is the heart of Silicon Valley. In 1990, my family and I moved down. We bought a house in Old Palo Alto because this is the community where we really felt comfortable and wanted to live and raise our daughter. And I spent a number of years not only building my law practice, but working for legal services organizations in Santa Clara County. My firm came to me after a number of years and asked me to take on a couple of assignments that took us away from Palo Alto. I thought it was going to be one assignment. I thought it was going to be 3 years. Turned out to be 3 assignments and quite a bit longer. But at the end of those assignments, my wife and I looked at each other and said, well, what do we want to do now? We could live anywhere. And we decided to come back to Palo Alto because this is our home. So I'm proud to say we've chosen to live in Palo Alto twice. And we now live downtown. We sold our house. We moved downtown because we wanted to be near University Avenue. We wanted to be able to walk to everywhere. It's a wonderful place to live. The community is everything that we remembered, and we're delighted to be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next candidate is Mr. Douglas, and would you also introduce yourself when you stand?
My name is Wayne Douglas. Nobody knows who I am or where I come from. So I guess I should say that I'm originally from Vermont, land of the town meeting and so forth, I guess. And I'm part of that overeducated group that we hear so much about who have an opportunity to look down on everybody else. I have a PhD in English from the University of Florida. And to give a kind of a promotion for my campaign literature, I have a new twist on that theme. I'm giving out literature. So if anybody wants some free literature, I'll give you some, if it's something you like. How did I get into politics? God only knows. I'm a big fan of Will Rogers, and Will Rogers was once asked why he didn't run for office, and he said, well, I can't compete with the real comedians, he said. He said, when they make a joke, it's a law. And when they make a law, it's a joke. And I got a good fill of that, observing the council meetings regarding the homeless in this town. And I remember saying to somebody, when it was all over with and my side had lost again, I said, this is an organization that is bereft of ideas. And so my idea is maybe we ought to be nice to the homeless, you know. Maybe we should give them a place in this community because they belong here. And that's as simple as that. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's why I'm here. So that makes me a single-issue candidate. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mr. Dubois.
Dubois.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tom Dubois, and thanks again to the League for hosting. And thank you guys. It's a terrific crowd tonight, and thanks to people watching on TV. I'm sure you could find something more entertaining. I'm Tom Dubois. I'm a resident of Midtown. I'm a dad, I'm a high-tech entrepreneur, and I'm a dog owner. This is a critical election for Palo Alto. We're at a crossroads. Our comprehensive plan, which sets the vision for the city for the next 10 to 15 years, will be completed under this next council. And we face important decisions on the future of what we want for Palo Alto. So that's why I'm running, because I care passionately about the city and I'm concerned about the direction we've been going. I want to see residents' needs and concerns take top priority so that we can enhance our quality of life. So I'm sure we're going to get tons of questions about land use tonight, so I thought I'd quickly talk about some other issues that I care about, and that if I'm elected, I want to work as one of 9 members of council to work collaboratively with my colleagues to move our city forward. So number 1 is Cubberley. I want to dedicate a large portion of my time and energy to getting the city and the school district on the same page and agreeing to a plan for both a community center and a school on the Cubberley site. Second is finances. I want to ensure that the fiscal restraint that we showed during the recession continues now that we're entering into a boom. I'd like to improve our water recycling. You know, we currently dump about 20 million gallons a day into the bay, and that's a precious resource that I think we could be using. For retail protection, we need to protect our ground floor retail. I'm interested in fiber to the home. And finally, I'm concerned about openness and trust. And I think every candidate will talk about openness, and we need to take some additional steps, such as balanced staff reports, earlier access to reports, and not creating the appearance of favoritism through exceptions. I think exceptions need to be rare. Trust can be lost in a second, and I want to work hard to restore trust in local city government. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mr. Wolbach.
Hello, my name is Corey Wolbach. I grew up in Palo Alto. I went to Mitchell Park Library as my library when I was growing up. Went to Gunn High School. I hope those in the Pali part of town don't hold that against me. In the 1998 El Nino floods, we were luckier than a lot of our neighbors. The water only came halfway up our driveway and didn't enter our home. I've made life-changing decisions at Foothills Park. These are a few of the reasons why I'm running, to preserve what's great about Palo Alto. In my day job, I work on policy and with the community. I work in the district office of the local state senate office, Jerry Hill. I've had an opportunity to be the liaison to the city of Palo Alto. It's given me a chance to work with the city council, city staff, the local school district, and several of our neighboring communities. And that's opened my eyes to some of the things that the city's doing right, that they might not always get credit for, but also some of the things that need to improve. My approach to all challenges in every organization I've ever been a part of is to play devil's advocate, to seek out adverse opinions, to find common ground, and to work from there. I value a civil, inclusive, and sustainable Palo Alto, and I'm passionate about good governance and good public policy that starts with community input. This is democracy, of course. My policy priorities include balanced planning, adequate transportation, ensuring that city services such as parks and those for the homeless are well-funded and maintained, especially in times of economic downturn when they're most vulnerable to be sacrificed. And lastly, continuing with the theme of collaboration, partnering with Palo Alto Unified and other governmental bodies and moving past Palo Alto's penchant for trying to do everything on its own. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Ms. Holman.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming and to the League for putting on this forum. It's much appreciated and a great public service, so thank you very much. From my perspective, this election is more about you than it is about the candidates. This is about you and the kind of town you want to live in, It's about you and the kind of town that reflects your values. It's about a town that you can be proud of, and it's about how your voice deserves to be heard and how your voice is considered. These are the things that matter. It's about your voice. It's about open space, traffic, housing. It's about diversity. It's about the future of Palo Alto. These are the things that matter, and that's what this election is about. I bring to this campaign 4.5 years experience on the City Council, 8.5 years experience on the Planning and Transportation Commission, 2 of those years as chair of that body. Prior to that, I served as co-chair of the South of Forest Avenue Working Group, and that's the development where the clinic left just south of downtown. That's proven to be a very popular and successful development. Driven by my values and desire to represent the public, I have opposed projects such as Alma Plaza and 101 Lytton and the JJ&F project, College Terrace Center, because I haven't felt that those projects reach the merit that they really should in satisfying public good. As far as leadership on the council, I've led in such ways as bringing forth initiatives at the council to limit council member conversations with applicants and interested members of the public prior to Architects Review Board and Planning Commission final recommendations. Wider sidewalks and how buildings better address the street have been also initiatives I brought forward. Wider protection for ground floor retail, expanding that. Business registry creation and dedication of 7.7 acres adjacent to Foothills Park. And also something you'll be hearing about more later this year, which is bringing forward the proposal from the Humane Society to create a new animal shelter. Look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mr. Reddy.
Good evening. You know my name. You pick one of the two. C for a short name or Seelam. It's a family name. So I want to take more time talking about what's for you to know me. So I just drove about an hour and a half, about 43 miles from San Ramon. I have an assignment at a company. I just started a couple of weeks ago. I just drove 43 miles from San Ramon for a corporation that's just as good as you can get in the U.S. And it took me an hour and 15, 20 minutes to come here, and I came late. And only in America, you come late and you sit in the middle, you know. So that's the opportunity we have, you know. I think I was an unwanted child, third in the family, a boy. My mom wanted a girl, but I came through, survived all the things that I did. We were a very close-knit family. My father was a farmer. He married my mom at age 5, and he was 8. So all those things overcome, and I one day saw at age 12, 13 some pictures of America, and I said, this is where I wanted to be. So I encouraged all my family, including my brothers and sister. We're all here. We're naturalized American citizens. We love our country, but we love America just as much as we love where we came from. So that's the significance of this elephant. So what we want is basically we want to get back to live in the Palo Alto we love. What do we want? We want this way it is today, don't mess it up. We want transparency. We don't want no backroom deals. We want to evict the existing city council and get the right people in so we can do that. So if you want no change, no backroom deals, no hanky-panky stuff, no corruption, I'm your candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scharf is our next candidate.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and welcome, everyone. It's great to see all of you here today and support the community we all love so much. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's great, and everyone for joining us tonight. In 1988, I moved to Palo Alto with my fiance, who later became my wife, and we've raised 3 wonderful children here in Palo Alto. My daughter Laura works for a local startup locally. My daughter Emily, who's now at Berkeley. Go Bears. No, I shouldn't say that, but go Bears. And my son Jason, who's a sophomore in high school. Having raised 3 kids in Palo Alto, I can tell you, I don't think there's a better community to raise kids. It is a fantastic place to live, and I can't imagine a better place. In 2001, I was fortunate enough to be able to move my law practice to California Avenue, and just on Park Boulevard, just off California Avenue. And I'd say California Avenue, I moved it there on purpose because it's charming and funky and fun. and we want to keep it that way. I have served almost 5 years on the City Council and as your mayor in 2013. And for me, there has been no greater honor. What I do on the council is I do a lot of regional work to further Palo Alto's interests. For instance, I serve on the Bay Area Conservation and Development Commission, where I protect the Bay, restore wetlands, and prepare and protect us for the effects of climate change. I am the Secretary and Treasurer of the Santa Clara County Cities Association, and I also serve on the Caltrain Advisory Board, where I closely work with Caltrain staff to ensure that we have the improvements that Caltrain needs. I am also the utilities guy on council and your Northern California Power Commissioner. And one of the first things I did when I got on NCPA is I renegotiated our governance documents, making them more transparent, and in so doing so, saved Palo Alto ratepayers approximately $250,000 a year in electricity costs, and that's ongoing structural change every year. I'm running for re-election because I love this community and would like the opportunity to finish some of the important work I have started during my first term to protect and enhance the quality of life for every Palo Alton. I'm proud of our record and feel I've earned your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick?
I'm John Frederick, and I think I'm the one that left my keys in the car. But I'm trapped up here, so maybe if the person that knows where that car is takes them out, I won't be in violation of the penal code or something like that. This is my 5th election, and, Palo Alto is rather data-driven, so just to get a little data here, I should ask, how many people voted for me in 1975?
Oh, wow.
How many people voted for me in 1977? How many people voted for me in 1981? How many people voted for me in 2003? Okay, well, I get the point. I need more votes. And that's why I'm talking to you tonight. And I believe that the best way to approach the subject is to look into the qualities and characteristics of the candidates and then look at the issues. You're a very savvy crowd. You're very aware of the issues. So, as Karen said, this is about the voters, but it's also about the candidates. You have to pick somebody who is simpatico with what you want to see happen in the next few years. I noticed when I look at my campaign literature from a decade ago, it had things like a moratorium on PC zoning and fixing things in the Charleston corridor and stuff like that. So I think part of the issue here is that the ball is in your court. It's up to you to decide what you want and vote accordingly.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ms. Shepard.
Thank you. And thank you also for bringing this forum for us tonight here. It's wonderful to be here with you tonight. I moved here in 1984 to raise our 4 children, and my husband has his law practice downtown Palo Alto. Today, my oldest daughter is a teacher at Palo Alto High School, and my daughter-in-law is an aide up at Nixon Elementary School. It's been really a wonderful experience living here in Palo Alto now half of my life. So I think you need to understand, back in 2009, when I looked at what was possibly going to be coming through Palo Alto, which was a high-speed rail of freeway going on a 50-foot viaduct all the way through town, and some of my neighbors being served notices of eminent domain, I was shocked that this would happen in Palo Alto. So I did what I've done before when I was in the school community working on fundraising. I reached out, convened a meeting of my neighbors to try to get to the bottom of this. And we learned that rail could be done right. And people got organized in my living room, and we launched a program to try to stop the high-speed rail. But in the meantime, we found a big friend with Caltrain. And Caltrain, being our backbone of our commute corridor up and down the peninsula, serves so many needs in Palo Alto right now. But also back in 2009, we were really looking at massive urbanization by what they wanted us to do with the superstation downtown, possibly the loss of the Stanford Hospital because the agreement to try to get it built was stalled out, and stress with teens. So today, all of that has been changed, and I've worked hard these last 4 years to have that experience be changed. And moving forward, this year as mayor, I have put out there the community conversation called Our Palo Alto, so we can hear and listen to each community member, wherever you are, to share your ideas for the future.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mr. Weiss.
My name is Mark Weiss. I'm running for City Council, and as I was listening to my fellow candidates talk, I was looking at the room, and I think I counted about 30 of you I know by name and face out of 120. I think Carolyn Tucker I've known the longest since her son Phil was my classmate at Fremont Hills Terman and Gunn. In fact, in 1982, she handed me my diploma. There's a photo of that as a school board member. I think the people I met most recently, I don't know them well, but Cheryl Lillian-Stein or Lillienthal, and John Kelly, the former Williams basketball star, and Penny Elson, who's working on this event. And my point is that as I've gotten to know the candidates here this year, and this is my third time running. I ran in 2009 and 2012, and Mayor Nancy and I were reminiscing that we sat side by side at the first panel like this that we both were in 2009 at JLS, or what I call Wilbur. I have developed a rapport with all 9 of the recent council members and some of the ex-council members and with this group. And my point is we're all in this together. Yes, I want to be seated as one of your 5 votes, but as I've done for 5 years, I will continue to be engaged in trying to impact policy. And I applaud you guys for being here, guys and gals, for being here tonight. You are impacting policy. I also wanted to say Etz Chaim. I've been here a couple times. They have a 5th Friday Shabbat. They did a Bob Dylan service that I went to. I remember as the YWCA, there were some rock concerts for teens that I attended because I was producing events at Cubberley for a number of years in the 90s. We've come to an interesting moment where the establishment wants rapid change, and people like me who's been here since 74, I went to Gunn, I went to Dartmouth, we want to enforce the status quo, enforce the comprehensive plan, and we're considered insurgents or worse. It's a very strange moment.
Thank you. And our last candidate for an opening statement, Mr. Vilsack.
Good evening. So first of all, I want to thank the League as well. I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you, folks. By the way, people have been telling me for 30 years they can't hear me talk. So if you can't hear me in the back, throw something or shout or something like that. Thank you very much for caring about this stuff. I think that's really, really important. So thanks for doing this. So my name is Eric Vilseth, and I was actually born in Wisconsin and grew up mostly in Canada, as it happens, a little bit in Germany. And I came out to go to school, and that's why I'm here, and I met my wife. I am a tech guy. I worked in the semiconductor industry for 27 years, including 16 at Cadence Design Systems, where I was a corporate vice president, and 5 years at Ciranova, where I was CEO as a software company that was sold in 2012. And my wife and I have lived in Palo Alto's downtown north neighborhood for 23 years now. Our 2 boys are nearly grown up. Our older one just graduated from Pali this June, and our younger one is a junior there. And over the years that we lived there, we noticed that our neighborhood began to change, and change is everywhere, but change in some ways that weren't good, right? Especially related to traffic and parking and things like that. And so I got involved with community activities. I worked on the downtown parking project and the model. I got involved with the Maybell group, and I was involved in the Measure D campaign. I am a member of Palo Altans for Sensible Zoning, and this is really why I'm running. I'm concerned that a disconnect has opened up between City Hall and what residents want for this community, particularly in terms of traffic, congestion, parking, stretched city infrastructure support, school crowding. My son, who just graduated, had one class with 48 kids in it in Pali. That's a big class for a high school. And my experience with Palo Alto was as a moderate density family town with great services and great schools. And I think that's where this should be. And I think we need to get realigned behind that vision and carry that forward in the future, because we're going to make some serious decisions here. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we come to the section of the agenda where any candidate can pose a question to another candidate and then can also have a rebuttal. So if you're asking a question, you have 30 seconds. The person who's responding has a minute, and then your rebuttal is 30 seconds. So you'll have to watch carefully with our timer over here. And I have to be able to see who you are so I can keep track that somebody doesn't ask 2 questions when they're only supposed to ask one. Okay? So anybody, this is not in any order. So is there anybody who would like to ask another member, candidate sitting there, a question? Mr. Reddy.
I would like to have any one of the sitting council members to tell the truth as to what happened with the deal on the land swap in the city where we were going to get a couple $100,000 for giving away a lot of land.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask you to ask a specific candidate because it's too wide open.
I would like to ask the mayor.
All right.
Thank you.
And you have a minute to respond. Thank you.
Which land swap or what are you talking?
Yeah, you can ask a clarifying question. Sure.
It's the land swap deal that we didn't sign.
The 7 acres? Is that what you?
Yeah, the 7 acres land swap that everybody writes about, where the developer that's got his name on Stanford.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you very much.
We need to come clean on it. So please.
Okay, let her respond, please. Thank you.
Sure. Back in 1982, the Lee family did donate 7.7 acres to the city of Palo Alto, and they kept control of those acres, and then they sold the control of the acres to Mr. Arriaga, who then used that 7 acres to help with his project up in his property. This is all the former quarry that's up there. He's bought the quarry property, so it was a big, heavy industrial area where there's a lot of traffic. Subsequently, he's tried to purchase the property throughout the years. When we got our when we got management of the property in '96, it then went leased into him. This was long before my time, and then he made an attempt to ask us if he could purchase the property, and so we. I had no idea that we owned the property, so I learned about it when this purchase offer came through. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a rebuttal, Mr. Reddy?
So basically, what the citizens need is a clear answer as to who made these deals, who are attempting to make these deals, so they can decide who they want on the city council. That's all I'm requesting.
Thank you.
Someone needs to tell us the truth.
Thank you. Does any other candidate have a question for another candidate? Yes. Mr. Johnston.
So I have a question for Greg Sharp.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question for Greg Sharp. Greg, you've been on the council for 5 years. I'm not sure how many, but there's been quite a lot of commercial development downtown during that 5 years. And my question for you is, did you vote in favor of those projects?
Well, we have a downtown development cap. That's roughly 350,000 more. It's been there 20 years ago we put it in. We have on a base of 3.5 million square feet. It's been about 10%. Can't hear me. It's been about 10%. There has not been that much development that's actually gone in downtown. So the only project that I voted for that was a PC project downtown was the Lytton Gateway project. And the Lytton Gateway project actually has traffic demand project management. It will be fully parked, and in fact, it'll make parking better because it is fully parked, and it is putting $2 million towards a garage. And when we do our infrastructure, which we're working on, we'll have a new parking garage, and that provides the seed money for it. Did we?
Thank you. And do you have a rebuttal?
Well, very briefly, I would like to see us move forward, but move forward particularly with additional housing, a broader spectrum of affordable housing in Palo Alto rather than commercial development.
Thank you. Does any other candidate have a question? Ms. Shepard?
I'm going to jump right back in here with AC.
And who are you asking the question of?
AC. And the planned community zoning is what we were just talking about here, and I wanted to get your ideas of what you think needs to be changed. That's coming to council soon, and I would like to hear what you think is flawed about it and maybe how you would change it.
Thank you.
Well, I think that while I would not totally throw out the whole concept of planned community zoning, I would use it very rarely. And I think that we have to be very clear that whenever we are going to grant variances from zoning, and we ensure that there are real public benefits that are delivered to the community in return for getting that variance, and that we make sure that we actually get the benefits that have been promised to us.
Thank you. Do you have a rebuttal?
Well, just that I still think that that's not giving enough security to the PC process as we know it today, and so I really would like to see personally, I was hoping to hear, a citizens committee or something to vet all of the PCs that we have in the past and see whether we get to move forward. So I would
Thank you. Any other candidate with a question? Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mr. Wolbach, thank you. And who would you like to ask a question of?
My name is Corey Wolbach. I'd like to ask a question of my former high school teacher, Mr. John Frederick. Mr. Frederick. And now I get to quiz you.
Already got a name.
We're facing potentially the largest displacement of people in our community in history at Buena Vista, that mobile home park, which may be closing. What do you think should be done?
Thank you, Corey. I think that's an excellent question about a very pressing issue. I feel that the Buena Vista site is very appropriate for the type of density and income service that it now has. And I noticed an interesting thing in the housing element that's now before the council, and it's sort of the front runner in the comprehensive plan, and that was the affordable housing overlay. Instead of a PC, because the construction would be specifically aimed at affordability, the city could work in partnership, perhaps a request for proposal, and come up with a plan that not only dealt with the problem, but maybe increased the density slightly from the RM15 that is currently there.
Thank you. Do you have a rebuttal?
Although we're not on a slate, I look forward to working with Mr. Frederick as we move forward and as the city takes, hopefully, more of a leadership role in allowing those residents and other low-income and even middle-income residents to remain in Palo Alto as housing becomes so much more inaccessibly expensive.
Thank you. Any other candidate with a question? Mr. Weiss? And who would you like to ask a question of?
I would like to ask a question of our most recent former mayor and current council member and incumbent, Mr. Gregory Scharf. And I attended from afar a special event at 250 Hamilton about 6 months ago. And it was a benefit event, I guess, for a department at Stanford, an NGO. And it had a private element and a public element. I attended the public element. And I was noticing you made a speech, and the speech was about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I was just wondering, as someone born in South Africa and who came here in your school days, I thought you kind of missed an opportunity to compare those two important figures, and I thought I'd give you a second chance to, could you tell us your impressions of Martin Luther King relative to Nelson Mandela, please?
Sure. Yes, I mean, Nelson Mandela was the father of South Africa. Martin Luther King was the father of the civil rights movement. I mean, I think they're both fantastic people, and I think they were both fantastic. And Nelson Mandela in particular, is saintly and spends all that time in jail, comes out, and frankly brings his country together. I would definitely say he's someone I admire and look up to. The same with Dr. King, and I was very honored to be able to do the Martin Luther King event. It was a touching moment for me, frankly, and I really appreciated the opportunity.
Thank you. Do you have a rebuttal?
How long is the rebuttal?
30 seconds.
I could talk for 30 minutes on MLK and Nelson Mandela. I was a concert promoter. I put on 150 events at Cubberley. I'm very influenced by a mentor of mine named Danny Schur, who in 1968 brought Thelonious Monk to Palo Alto High, and it was just weeks after Martin Luther King in 68 had been assassinated, and it's been written about by scholars as a groundbreaking event for Palo Alto cultural history and honors Mr. King's passing and an important jazz musician. So
thank you. I'm going to step in here for a minute. Mr. Sharp has now answered 2 questions, so future questions should be directed to other candidates. And Mr. Reddy, you've already asked 1, so I'm going to try to rotate around and then see who else wants to ask a question. So Mr. Philseth, who would you like to ask a question of?
Sorry about this. This is a gearhead finance question. I'm a numbers guy, and I can't help myself. So I have a question for the mayor. Ms. Mayor, as part of the new $126 million infrastructure project that includes the new public safety building, we are going to borrow $64 million using a debt instrument called a COP, Certificate of Participation. A COP is like a bond issue with 2 differences. It doesn't require voter approval, and the interest rate is significantly higher than a bond, typically 1% to 3%. My question is, why would the city choose a COP instead of a bond? It'll cost the city millions of dollars in extra interest costs, and every homeowner knows the difference between a 4% mortgage and a 5% or 6% mortgage. So why would we finance this project with a COP instead of a lower cost bond? Thank you.
I'm going to try this mic because we've been avoiding it. A COP is, you're exactly right. We have the TOT on the ballot right now.
A little bit louder if you put
We have
the
the TOT on the ballot right now because it is a 50% majority. We polled carefully for this because this is very critical for us to finish the infrastructure financing that we have for all of the backlog of infrastructure that we work so hard to get to. It's very risky to go out for a bond. You need a supermajority, and we didn't feel that we could risk that. Now, I prefer a bond. That is exactly what I would like to do. I think we all preferred the bond, but there just was not enough security in being able to go out and do that. So it is up to the voters right now as to whether or not you would like to increase the transit occupancy tax by 2% for the hotels, and then finish up our package for how we're funding this long legacy of infrastructure that we found funding for.
Thank you very much. Do you have a rebuttal?
I do. So the transit occupancy tax, you know, it pays the cost, it pays the debt off over time, right? But you still got to have the debt. And so if I understand what we just heard is that the bond won't pass because residents don't want to go into debt for this size and scale of building. So what we have is a city financial deal structured specifically to get around the residents and avoid a vote. And this backdoor around residents is going to cost several $1 million. Hasn't the city done enough with these sneaky deals that skirt around residents already? Didn't we just promise we wouldn't do any more? And yet, here's a new one.
Thank you. I'm also going to let you know that Ms. Shepard has already answered 2 questions. So again, the future questions should be directed to other candidates. Who else would like to ask a question? Ms. Holman?
Sure, and this could go to pretty much anybody. Maybe Tom. Tom hasn't had a question. Okay. What experience will you draw on, and what will guide your decision-making in reviewing and determining future development projects?
So I've been a CEO of a company. I've also been very involved in Measure D, and as part of Palo Alto's Sensible Zoning, I've been following a lot of planning and development in the city. So, you know, in evaluating new developments, for me, the top thing is this a benefit to residents or not? But I also have the data background and the ability to dive into detail to really understand the complexities and the trade-offs that a lot of these developments entail.
Thank you. And Ms. Holman, do you have a rebuttal?
Just quickly, we also have guiding documents such as comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance, and speaking of data, we also have environmental impact reports that we'd be using also in reviewing projects.
Thank you. Any other candidates besides Mr. Reddy? Oh, Mr. Boys. Du Bois.
I have a question for Mark. So the civil grand jury found that we could have done better on 27 University and the acres of parkland. Do you think the council's response was sufficient?
To me, it seems unprecedented or quite rare that the grand jury of Santa Clara would tell us that on June 16th of this year, they told us that we were secretive and non-responsive to requests regarding some deals between one developer and two different pieces of land, John Arriaga, 27 University, which is MacArthur Park, which is a war memorial, incidentally, and a historic community center, and also that 7.7 acre parcel that Nancy and Seelam were talking about. I'm still quite concerned about that. Is this the tip of the iceberg? Is this an isolated set of two projects? I am a little bit concerned that developers, especially the uber powerful 1% type developers, have it too easy. We don't vet their projects. They sort of have their way with us, so to speak. I think we've engendered...
Thank you.
I could keep talking for hours on this.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other candidate? I'm sorry, rebuttal. I'm sorry.
So I thought the apology was a little initially pretty tepid. And again, I think we got to work very hard to restore trust and really look at our processes, how we can involve the community, make sure we're hearing what residents are concerned about, and that we do everything in open unless it has to be behind closed doors legally.
Thank you. Any other candidate with a question? Mr. Scharf.
Corey, you grew up in Palo Alto. You're Senator Hill's aide. You were the liaison to Palo Alto. You've been following Palo Alto really closely. What are the top 3 things you think the council did right?
Touché.
Does my time start when I start talking? Or?
Right.
Thank you.
Transportation demand management. Our Palo Alto, though it is only baby steps and a very small part of what we actually need when it comes to community engagement, which is why I look forward to leading community meetings in every neighborhood with not just consultants and not just staff, but with council members. And giving us the chance to discuss the issue of council size reduction. I'm opposed, but I'm glad we're having a chance to talk about it.
Thank you. Do you have a rebuttal?
I do. Just briefly, I'd say that I think we did infrastructure right. We have a really good funding plan. And most Palo Alto residents, when you poll, want a new public safety building. It just falls ever so slightly below the majority for a bond. So you'd have a small minority violating and not allowing Palo Alto residents to have what they want if you went for a bond rather than the COP.
Thank you. Any other candidate who has already not asked a question?
Rebuttal?
Pardon me?
Yeah, rebuttal on that.
No, because the question was not addressed to you. And the way we're working this part here again is you each get one question, da-da-da. So again, Mr. Frederick.
I have a question for Eric Filseth because we came out on different sides of the senior housing project on Maybell and Clemo. And that's in that there were many protestations that there was no idea of knocking down the concept of senior housing. Where would you put senior housing, and when, and how?
How long do I have? A minute?
You have a minute.
I think there's really 2 questions involved in that. And one is, there's 2 much larger questions for that. One is, how much housing do we need in Palo Alto? Okay? And the other is, where should it go to? Right? And I think the question of how much do we need in Palo Alto, clearly it's not 0. Clearly it's not infinite. I think the city needs to get a very, very deliberate about answering that question, because otherwise we're going to have it stuffed on us by ABAG. In terms of who should get it, I think seniors ought to have a priority for it, particularly seniors that already live in Palo Alto and want to downsize. I think we should do it in such a way that it benefits the community. So people that, as you mentioned, seniors that want to downsize and live here, I think that's part of it. People who have jobs here, right, I think that's part of it. People, I'd love to see more of the city's staff work in Palo Alto. Right? Today, something like 7% does or something like that. But I think we need to get very, very deliberate about housing and choose and try to choose housing that's going to intelligently benefit the community. Okay?
Thank you. And is there a rebuttal for that?
That was pretty good on the what, but not too good on the how, when, and where. I think what we need to do is to actually prioritize this, and especially on some of these bigger parcels, get the city more involved from the outset, get the elements of the community that are opposed to it more involved on the outset, not at the end in a referendum type situation, and also deal with it in tandem with traffic. The situation of traffic on Arastradero should have been dealt with the Clemo and Maybell project, and there was no attempt to do that.
Thank you. I just have two candidates who haven't asked questions, and if you're not interested, we can move on to the questions from the audience, and that would be you, Ms. Koo, and Mr. Douglas. So, Ms. Koo, are you interested in asking someone a question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'd like to ask Mr. Friedrich. This is a question about the 2013 Measure D referendum. It is a highly contentious debate. What went wrong, and what would you do differently? I'm interested to hear how you view the different perspectives of the various parties.
This is the Maybell project again. Well, to begin with, it would have been difficult for anything to have happened if the two planning commissioners in the 11th hour hadn't said, where are the people from the neighborhood? They should have been there more from the beginning. In addition, I thought the issue of Arastradero Road and whether the single lane was working for the 10,000 cars that come down Arastradero every day needed to be discussed more fully. And then I thought there would have been a chance for more engagement at the Barron Park Association level and with the neighbors before it came to the referendum, which was kind of ended up at Donnybrook in a low turnout election. 30%, less than 30% of the people voted in a 56 to 44 difference. So I think the process did not serve the needs for affordable housing very well.
Thank you. Do you have a rebuttal?
The reason Measure D was defeated was because many of the same problems had occurred so often, over so much time, over so much of the town. There were just too many people who just said no more.
Thank you. And Mr. Douglas, do you have a question? No. All right. We will now move on to the questions from the audience, and I'll be asking them in a random order, but I will tell the person who goes first that they're going to be first, and actually it's going to be you, Mr. Scharf, and I believe you have a minute for your answers, correct?
No, 2 minutes.
No. For the questions? I think it has to be 1 minute because we're going to get very few questions. If it's 2 minutes, that's 24 minutes per question, or 25 minutes, and I think it needs to be 1 minute. What do you think? Pardon me?
Excuse me, could you clarify that again, what we're doing here now?
We're clarifying, and perhaps I'm wrong, that you get 1 minute for your response to these questions that are coming in from the audience. Okay. You will get 2 minutes for your closing statement. Okay. But you'll get 1 minute. 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute. I thought it was 1 minute. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to start with Mr. Scharf. What is your position on allowing granny units in Palo Alto as a way to increase housing while not concentrating this density in any one neighborhood?
I think it's definitely something we should explore. In fact, we brought it up at the Regional Housing Committee, and we actually managed to get our ABAG numbers reduced. We managed to get our ABAG numbers reduced by 30 units of existing units that were already being built every year. It's definitely something that's worth exploring. It has less impacts on the community. Without, though, having properly vetting it, I'm not going to say tonight that we should do that, but I definitely think it's a concept worth exploring.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, you're next.
I would contextualize my response in saying that I think the Association of Bay Area Governments is a biased element, and the building industry is very powerful, and I think we do have the right to push back, and we might risk some exposure in a legal arena, but it might be worth it because it is really quite contentious for the very least, and it's sort of, in my opinion, a red herring case, the granny units. I'm more concerned with dense packed housing in some of the areas on the housing element. Specifically, I'm wondering when Fry's leaves the 15-acre parcel in Ventura, perhaps we can push back against Soprado. They have a 17 units per acre plan for 200 new homes. I'd rather see a large park for Ventura and maybe 100 homes.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ms. Holman.
Yes, also serving on the Regional Housing Mandate Committee, I supported allowing some second units and counting those towards our numbers. But one of the things I think it's important to realize here is the Regional Housing Mandate numbers that are put upon the communities by ABAG, the Association of Bay Area Government, is that we don't count lost units. And the truth of the matter is that we lose more units a year than we gain in terms of cottages, second units, and we have also multifamily units that are demolished and lost to the production of larger, more expensive units. So we have been trying to push back, and we have pushed back against ABAG, but we have a long ways to go in trying to get state changes to really address what the real fallacies are and misalignments are with ABAG.
Thank you. Ms. Koo?
I do support granny units in order to bring up the numbers for housing here in the city throughout different neighborhoods. However, I do think that it's very important that we do not forget that it does have impacts to our community, such as parking, which is already an issue in a lot of the neighborhoods. So I would want to make sure that it does not have any more cumulative impacts within the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wolbach?
In the last couple of months, I found something that I speculated is actually true. As I've been knocking on doors and talking to Palo Altans up and down the city, people have second units. They're illegal frequently. People have extended family members, renters, friends, caregivers sleeping in their house, but they can't establish a legal second unit for them, even in neighborhoods like my own, Palo Verde neighborhood, where we don't really have much parking impact except in a couple of small blocks. We should lower the threshold for plot size in order to allow second units, granny units, in-law units, where appropriate in Palo Alto. People in Palo Alto are getting squeezed, and when you ask them, they'll tell you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnston?
I agree that granny units are something that we should look at carefully because I think they could be a solution to some of the housing shortage that we have. So I would favor looking at that. I would favor the point that Corey just made about reducing the lot size necessary for a granny unit. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy?
My answer is absolutely. New York is doing it. I read it in New York Times the other day that Mayor DeBasso, I may be misspelling his name or missaying his name, but Manhattan is looking into it. The thing is, we want to invite people into this community, and the only way we can do it is using existing housing. So I don't think we want to call it granny unit. I think we want to call it a second, whatever they can put together for one or two people. That becomes also an income for the family. So I'm absolutely for it. Let's do it. Let's change the laws and rezone everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas?
I am absolutely as enthusiastic as Corey and Reddy. One time, my wife and I knew a woman who had been displaced from her house, and even though we didn't know her too terribly well, without even talking about it, we agreed we had to do something about it. I'm damned if we didn't find a place for her. It was around this time of year when she was displaced, so I was worried about the rains starting, and it turned out I was right. We found a place in our neighborhood, which is rife with those illegal units that Corey talks about, in time, because within about 3 or 4 days after she moved in, the rain started that year. So I would even advocate, we have, I think, a law in the books that says we have to install electronic or electric chargers for electric cars. Why not make it mandated for new construction to put a grandparent unit perhaps on a separate garage?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Philsett?
Yeah, I think, we sort of touched on this when you asked before about housing. I think As the former mayor said, I think granny units could certainly have a role in a larger housing plan, right? I think, we'd have to look at the parameters of that. But I think the most pressing thing is the city really has to grow up and decide, how fast do we want to grow? How much housing do we want to have here, right? Because everything else flows from that. The amount of space we need in our schools, the amount of space we need in our parks, city service, infrastructure, and so forth. So I'd really like to see the city focus on that, but I think that to the extent that we're talking about granny units, I do see value to the community in having those, so I think those could be a part of it.
Thank you. Mr. Du Bois?
I'm currently on the Citizens Working Group for the housing element, and we see about 4 granny unit applications a year. So in our new element, we have 32 granny units out of a 2,000 housing allocation. So it's not a panacea. I think we should explore allowing granny units on smaller lot sizes, but if we do that, they should probably be attached to the main house and not near the fence where they look over to the neighbors' yards. And I do think they should be fully parked.
Thank you. And Ms. Shepherd?
I think everything has been well articulated. We are finishing our housing element right now, which sets us for the next 7 years. And I think that they've done it, the Housing Committee has done a great job of that, and I'm in favor of having granny units as well. And also trying to come up with different levels of being able to figure out how to reinvent some of the zoning that we have so that we can be innovative and creative to handle some of the projects that are going to be coming forward and the needs that we have for housing.
Thank you. You can remain standing because you're going to be number 1 for the next question. What do you feel are the...
Excuse me. Will I get to speak to this issue?
I'm sorry. Did I miss you? How did I miss you? Hold on a second here. Yes, absolutely.
I'm really down with these units. The fact is, I've talked about it with the realtors. It's in the housing element there. Lots but in the 7,000 to 10,000 range are totally suitable for this, depending on what neighborhood they're in. You can put them in neighborhoods where there are alleys, where there's corner lots that are oversized. An important part of the process would be actually inventorying the in-law units and so-called illegal units that are already there, and I hope they overlook my unit. I live there in Barron Park in an area that is RIF also with non-conforming grandfathered-in type housing.
Thank you. I apologize again for skipping you. I don't know how I did that. Okay. Our next question, and some of this I think you've probably alluded to, but I do want to ask this question because it was the first one that came in. What do you feel are the 2 biggest issues facing Palo Alto and why? And we'll begin with you, Ms. Shepherd.
Well, I've always talked about 4 things, which is traffic, parking, and density, and then also the community conversation, and maybe 5, the comprehensive plan update. So I'm going to start with comprehensive plan update because I think that's the most challenging and the most important, because there's a lot of angst about how what's going on right now, and most of the projects that are in play right now and getting developed right now are under conforming zoning as the comprehensive plan is articulated back in 1998. And so I hear from many that this is not the experience we want in this community, to have, little units that have been, little shops out on El Camino turn into 3-story projects. And so getting to the comprehensive plan and getting scenarios into the comprehensive plan and revisioning, and then going out into the community to find our vision, and then also to do the measurements in the environmental impact report, which does give us the updated traffic studies and all that many people have been really interested in.
Thank you. Mr. Scharf.
Well, I think it's traffic, parking, and density, and trust in the development process. I've watched over the years when we talked about the PC process. We talked about how it needed to be reformed. We frankly ensured when we looked at the PC processes on council that there would actually be real benefits. But I do not see how the PC process continues as a viable alternative when there's no trust in it. And so therefore I think we need to eliminate it. I think everybody feels that there's this sense that with a PC process there's either an exception, that someone's getting a deal that they shouldn't get. So I think we just simply need to eliminate it, and we need to focus on fixing our traffic, parking, and frankly supporting our retail and enhancing retail downtown and other places in the city.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss?
I'm going to follow Nancy's suit. I think this comprehensive plan, general plan update is a very serious matter. I'm actually quite concerned. And then piggyback to that is what I feel is a general, not to be Jeremiah, but a general leadership problem, and there's a vacuum and a special interest has crept in. The comprehensive plan is a good plan. We want to ratify it and carry it on, carry it over. We don't want to gut it. Why did we spend $1.7 million for a consultant in Berkeley to basically gut it and flush it into the bay, as I say in my ballot pamphlet statement? I disagree with Corey. I think our Palo Alto was a sham and a boondoggle. We spent $350,000 on designer cheeses and juices just to lure people in. I mean, I do think, following George Packer's recent book, The Unwinding, I think we need to all lean in, step forward, speak out. I don't think we need to be lured by fancy cheeses, but thank you all for coming tonight, and I look forward to working with everyone in this room towards making Palo Alto great and keeping it the way it has been.
Thank
Point
you.
of order, can I respond to the critique?
Not at this time. In your closing statement, you could certainly address that. Ms. Holman?
Yes, thank you. I think there are two issues that I would focus on. One is development. And why is that an issue? It's because of how much, what kind, and where. We're being impacted by new development as it is changing the character of town and the pace at which it is coming. And it also is displacing our local services and retailers. And I think that's a very serious implication for our community, both economically. From my planning background, I know that economically it is important to have local independent businesses as well as the community character. And the other one I would say is budget. Because from my perspective, how we spend our dollars should be determined by our values. So our values should drive how we spend our dollars as opposed to the other way around. And one example I would give with that is, before the downturn, the most recent downturn, we were close to 1% of our budget was spent for our social services to support those who are less well off in this community. And the downtown food closet almost closed. And so I would like to get it back up to that.
Thank you. Ms. Koo?
Two biggest issues, changing culture and values at City Hall so that it does bring back the vision of the people, of the residents, back into City Hall. And growth. Growth is actually now determined by regional forces, Sacramento, and developers and special interests. That needs to be addressed and skeptically looked at and moderated. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Wolbach?
I'd say that the two biggest issues facing our community, one is style, one is substance. On style, it's how we interact with each other. It's the missing civility and openness of which, again, I think that our Palo Alto was a baby step in the right direction, though certainly inadequate. I was at a couple of those meetings, and more needed to follow, for sure. On the substance of policy, it's really our jobs housing imbalance and our failure to address it. Not because ABAG tells us, but because we have a jobs housing imbalance. It's worsening traffic, it's worsening parking, and it's squeezing people out of Palo Alto. It's squeezing local businesses out of Palo Alto, because what we're facing is skyrocketing property values. And that's great for all of us who own homes. I'd like to say I was endorsed by the Silicon Valley Association of Realtors. I'm not trying to drive down everybody's property values, but let's be honest, it's getting to a point where people are getting pushed out.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick?
Was the question the two biggest priorities? Was that?
Yes, it was. Let me take a look at it. The two biggest issues facing Palo Alto and why.
Okay. Well, I do think the number one issue is how we prioritize things. I think, I read a thing today somebody sent me about Vince Lombardi, famously quoted as, winning is the only thing, that type of thing. But they said Lombardi's actual approach to things was focus on the task and then develop relationships between the players. And I see the gap in both of those areas is immense. And we have to square up over the issue of cumulative impacts And also, what is the real nature of declaring a negative environmental impact? We have absorbed huge environmental impacts with scarcely a cry from our political leaders because it's acceptable zoning is given the excuse. So I think we need to sort of change our focus and attitude.
Thank you. Mr. Johnston.
I agree with the others who have pointed to the comprehensive plan as the #1 priority. I think the comprehensive plan is our blueprint. It's the blueprint for how we want our community to look for the next 5, 10, 15 years. It's critically important that all of you, everyone in the community, but all of you, provide input into that so that your voices are heard and that you will be able to help the city determine where things are going to be. And I think we need an overall plan before we start doing changes to spot zoning or to changes to the PC process so that we kind of know what the overall picture is going to be before we start looking at little pieces. My second priority would be to improve transparency and access from our leaders. We need to reach out to the community, make sure that their voices are heard before we make large decisions at City Hall.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy.
I see our biggest problem is traffic. You know, it takes 40 minutes to get through one end to the other end. It's worse on the south side. North side is a little easier. So we need to come up with an innovative way to address the traffic. As much as like when I go to London, I see Tube. Maybe Elon Musk could help us design a very innovative way to move us around without cars. You know, we need to get past the gasoline cars and the one person driving, all that stuff. So we need to be very innovative, and we could be that. The second one is basically no growth, slow growth, low growth, no growth. We want Palo Alto to be just like it is. Don't mess it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas.
I'm going to say it again. Homelessness. Okay? That's a big issue as far as I'm concerned. 6 people died on the street last bad, wet season. I certainly don't want to see that again. I want to see people housed, if possible, housing first, and nobody dying on the street. There's a goal worth seeking. And the other one is probably related, and that's affordable housing. Even young people like Corey have talked about how difficult it is for someone his age to find a place to buy. In fact, finding a place to rent is getting to be harder. I want to stick to my mortgage because it's way cheaper than any other place I could rent in this town. And if that raises the evil specter of rent control, let's not rule it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Filsa.
Well, I think the most critical and important problem is development and land use reform in this city. I think it's so big that it touches immense numbers of things. It touches everything in this town. I think PC reform is just a little tiny piece of this. If you look at our city in the last 4 years, we've opened more office space in the downtown core than in the previous 20 years combined. We now have the county's worst jobs housing imbalance and its worst inbound commutes. And it's a function of a number of things, but our development processes and policies have led directly to this, and I think we got to change that right away. I think that it can't wait for a rewrite of the comprehensive plan. I think we need to act now. I actually think the current comprehensive plan is quite good, and with only minor changes will last us another 20 years. But if we don't act faster than that, California Avenue is going to look like University Avenue. It already sort of is starting to go that way. You know, Midtown's going to be behind that. We need to start making choices like this if we want to have a direction of what our town's going to look like. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Du Bois.
So I agree with Eric. I think the #1 issue is land use policy. I think traffic and parking are just symptoms of that. We need to stop digging ourselves into a bigger hole. We need to stop granting exceptions for commercial office buildings. And the second thing would be, I do think we need a change of culture. It comes from the city council setting priorities. I think the city manager and the staff will then react to that. So I'd really like to see a culture that is more responsive to residents, and then also just sets clarity. I think developers and residents alike would both benefit from just some simple clarity. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, and we're going to begin with you, Mr. Du Bois. Cities around us are taking steps to raise the minimum wage to $15. Would you support such a wage increase in the city of Palo Alto?
Yes, I support a livable wage, and I would support that.
Thank you. Ms. Shepard?
Actually, I support livable wage. I'm not sure if it's $15 or not, but I would like to take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scharf?
Yes, I support a livable wage as well, and there has been a lot of interesting stuff going on. San Jose passed something similar recently, and I think Palo Alto should definitely look at doing this.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss?
How much time do we have?
You have a minute.
My Fremont Hills colleague and Gunn High School 1981 Titans 25-3 teammate Brian Evans, who's a professor now at Foothill College, he says he supports earned income tax credit rather than minimum wage, but I say yes, minimum wage. 15 is not enough. How about 25? How about our baristas pouring us a cappuccino could actually rent an apartment here? I can barely rent an apartment here. I think we should tether this to the residential parking permits. I think if we're going to force these workers to scramble for parking and spend $10 a day, we could raise their hourly couple bucks an hour. I'm willing to pay $7 for a cappuccino. That's cool. America needs a middle class. That's what George Packer's book. George Packer, class of '78, Herb Packer's son, Nancy Packer's son, Ann Packer's brother. Amazing guy. I don't know him, but I'm plugging him. Read his book, The Unwinding. We need America needs a middle class. I represent the middle class. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Holman?
Most definitely support a livable wage. I don't know if that's $15, above that or below that, but definitely support a a livable wage. This is a very progressive community, and sometimes it's a little surprising some of the things that we haven't yet addressed, and I think this is one of them.
Thank you. Ms. Koo?
Yes, I too support the wage, the minimum wage raised to $15.
Thank you. Mr. Wolbach?
I'd go for 20. No, seriously.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick?
I favor federal action first, state action second, and finally local action. But I would agree with Corey. It needs to be more than 15 if you're addressing the issue from a local base, given the rents and other problems. So that's why I favor federal first, state second, and us third.
Thank you. Mr. Johnston?
I agree we should have a livable minimum wage, but like some of the others, I think it's something we need to study and really make sure we know what that is.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy?
So it's un-American for someone to tell you how much minimum wage should be. I do not support that. But this is happening at people that are over 55 in this region where people are not getting jobs. So I think the company should voluntarily recognize the cost of living here and increase the wages. But I don't want to have somebody to tell a business what should the minimum wage be. They should work with the city government. They have eyes. So they should go increase salaries for what they need, but not a government mandate. We don't need any more mandates. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas?
Yes, at least $15.
Thank you. And Mr. Filseth?
Sure, absolutely. I think, as with the others, I don't know whether the right number is 15 or 16 or 14 or 20, right? But it's expensive to live here, and I think we should do it. Unemployment doesn't seem to be our biggest problem in Palo Alto right now.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, and we'll begin with you, Mr. Filsef. What is your position on the high-speed rail proposal? I thought I'd give an easier one and then the next one.
High-speed rail. Let me see if I can give you a very, very nuanced answer to this. I think it's a freaking disaster for California. Okay. No, I think high-speed rail, I think, it would be great to have a train. I think it's about priority number 293 for the state. I think if we're going to go after transportation, I think it makes much more sense to go after regional transportation first, which is much more pressing than trying to get people back and forth between Southern and Northern California. That's at a state level within Palo Alto. I think it would be a real problem for Palo Alto. Obviously the impact of the corridors and so forth would be a huge wrenching thing for us. So, I hope high-speed rail will die. I wish Jerry Brown would have picked revitalizing our education system as his legacy project instead of a train.
Thank you. Mr. Du Bois.
Yeah, I was against high-speed rail before I was against high-speed rail. I'm praying that the financing, will fall apart and legally it won't get here. But if it does, I think the city needs to jump in and fight against high-speed rail.
Thank you. Ms. Shepard.
Well, I did spend 4 years on the rail committee, and we do have a statement and a position that I help champion, which is that we don't need to have high-speed rail, or if we do, we need to follow the voters' guide as to how it was supposed to roll out. I do want to finish the rail corridor study, the feasibility study for trenching the tracks that we are in the middle of doing right now for the city, because when even Caltrain is modernized, we will have a train every 5 minutes during the commute time, and that will be very difficult for Palo Alto to be able to move. And we are looking at feasibility with either trenching the train, which is very expensive, but we can do it. We can have that conversation today and not in the middle of an impact report that the high-speed rail is doing when they plan to come to town.
Thank you. Mr. Scharf.
Thank you. We've actually been fighting high-speed rail for the last 5 years, including lawsuits, including sending people to Sacramento, including lobbying our state senator at the time, thank you, Joe, and doing everything we possibly can to stop that wall being built through Palo Alto. And we were fairly successful. We got the two-track solution, which is much, much better than what the four-track solution they were looking at. I think on a going-forward basis, Palo Alto needs to be extremely vigilant. And I agree with Nancy. We really need to focus on trenching the train. It's about the same cost as doing grade separations. What we have to do is, on a regional basis, figure out how to get support for that, because other people will think that we just want something special for Palo Alto. So we need regional leadership from the council on this to figure out how we can get that trenching done, as opposed to just grade separations, which could take lots of homes, cause huge disruption. And so I think this is a serious issue that Palo Alto needs to continue to be vigilant on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss.
What do I, Mark Weiss, think of high-speed rail? It's a little bit like asking the field mouse what he thinks of the herd of stampeding elephants. I ran for council in 2009 when this was more on the agenda, and we did have to deal with this. Initially, I supported it in principle. I happen to have known Quentin Kopp, and he was on the commission at the time, the head of it, and he said it was good, and I believed him for a minute. But it's also harking back to something about our comp plan. I want to know who sets the agenda in a democracy. A lot of these things seem predetermined. I'm not sure what our role is. I think, we fought back a little bit, a regional problem that we had our little say, but we're not that good at building small things like bike bridges and libraries. I'm not sure how we would build the high-speed rail these days. Also, 7,000 American dead in Iraq and Afghanistan. I would rather spend the billions and trillions on a high-speed rail and not that.
Thank you. Ms. Holman.
Yes, when the high-speed rail proposal first came along, I remember saying about the environmental impact report that it's not a serious document. And I think it's important to put a shout-out to. This is why the public is so important in this community, what a smart, intelligent community we have. There are 4 women in this community that were part of the CARD, Californians Advocating for Responsible Railroad Design, who really saved the day for this town, this community, and really, I think, for the state, because they lobbied in Sacramento, and Joe's well familiar with this, on our behalf, and really pointed out so many numerous flaws, the business plan and all the flaws in it. Won't go on about all the things wrong with the high-speed rail plan and proposal that came forward, but they are numerous, and it's important to recognize citizen volunteers, especially to the extent that they were involved. I think we do. Excuse me, I think we do need to look at, pardon me, at Caltrain and other solutions, and as has been said, above ground grade separation is just not feasible, is not workable, and trenching is a very expensive proposal, but we have to look at it.
Thank you. Ms. Koo?
I voted against high-speed rail when it first came on, and I'm still going to vote against it if it comes back again. But it's certainly, as Karen had said, it's a divider, and the threat of eminent domain is something that's just simply not acceptable, especially with hardworking folks who had invested a lot into their homes. And again, this is another state and regional effort bringing on their wants and needs into a city that cannot sustain such a project. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Wolbach.
Since I said something nice, or was forced to say some nice things about the current city council and Palo Alto earlier, I do want to actually offer a little bit of criticism. I don't think that lawsuits are the right way to deal with this. I wonder how much money Palo Altans want their elected bodies to spend on lawyers before it's necessary. However, the lobbying is very effective. I know from my day job, I've worked on the other side of city lobbying, Palo Altans lobbying their state, and that's very effective. Through that, we've gotten the assurances of Caltrain electrification and a blended system. We need to keep pushing to make sure we get the money from all the sources necessary in order to trench. Otherwise, high-speed rail should not go through the middle of Palo Alto, of course. But because of Caltrain electrification and modernization, which is going to happen, we need to do that trenching anyway.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick?
I agree about the environmental impact report. I read both the environmental impact reports on the Sand Hill Road, and I don't think the state environmental impact report for the high-speed rail is equal to that. I think what tells the tale is the movement from a 9-0 endorsement of high-speed rail to 9-0 opposition. What's the cause of that? Well, I think bait and switch. I think the plan we're getting is not the plan we voted for. They are charging too much. They're not completing the purpose of the plan. I support electrification, but I think that BART might be the better solution. Preserve the freight rail right-of-way, and then put BART all the way around the bay and join with our neighbors in Menlo Park and Atherton to oppose the current project because it does not fulfill the conditions of the initiative.
Thank you. Mr. Johnston?
I've had the pleasure of living in a couple of communities that have high-speed rail. And it's a wonderful thing where it works, but it is very intrusive. And I think that the idea of having high-speed rail come right through the middle of Palo Alto would just further divide this community. If it's going to be done, if it's something that we really end up being forced to do, I think we have to put it in a trench or even underground, so that we don't divide the community even further.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy?
So I came to California in 1977 when Governor Jerry Brown, they used to call him Governor Moonbeam. So the answer is no, absolutely not through Palo Alto. We have to fight all the way to the Supreme Court to get that done. We need to look at innovative way of transporting people. Again, I'm suggesting all the smart people in Stanford and near Elon Musk type people look at a different way to transport people. We've done this thing. We've done the trains, we've done bullet trains, we've done cars. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Douglas.
I didn't realize trenching had come along so far. It's an excellent idea, and if we're going to do it all. But the very thing that makes it hard for us as a community to do anything is that we're overbuilt. And this is the prime example. We've got a very, very narrow rail corridor to go through, and they want to cram everything into it, even if it means eminent domain destruction of people's homes. Now, clearly that's unacceptable, and Seelam is right. We need to just do it, fight it all the way. It's not that I hate public transportation. People marvel that I lived for 5 years in California and went to work in Cupertino on public transportation. It was okay with me. So no to high-speed rail as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. And we're actually at our last question, and I'm going to put two questions together. So the first part is, are you in favor of reducing the Palo Alto City Council from 9 members to, I believe it's 7. Let me find that card. Yes, from 9 to 7. So that's the first part. But this other question is, Palo Altans for Sensible Zoning, PASZ, advocated for, quote, fully paid, quote, city council positions in a recent open letter to the city council. Are you a member of PASZ, and do you support full-time salaries for council members? Okay, so two-part question. One, do you favor or support the reduction? And then this open letter about full-time paid city council members. And we begin with you, Mr. Douglas.
Perfect. I was hoping I'd be the first.
Okay.
When Gennady Shiner just called me up after I pulled my papers, he asked me, why are you running? And I said, I'm only in it for the money. I was hoping he would, ask me the follow-on question from Casablanca, but there is no money in politics in Palo Alto, and I could say I was misinformed. Anyway, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we need a full paid. It's getting to be a bigger and bigger responsibility, clearly, and it's getting harder and harder to keep your thumb on the pulse of the voters, and perhaps a fully salaried position would help you do that. And so I can't say as I oppose it necessarily. I forget what the second one was now.
Well, are you a member of that group?
No.
No. Thank you. And did you support reducing the size of the city council?
I denounced the city council for the Arriaga meetings, and my chief objection was here were 9 people, and nobody objected. They followed this crazy process that nobody ever dreamed of before, and nobody said, no, let's not do this. This is transparency, not happening even a little bit. So reducing it to 7 would make it even that much easier, and so I oppose a reduction.
Thank you. Mr. Philsip?
So the two questions were
the first
reducing
one
the council
was
size.
you support reducing the size, and the second was about the group PASZ.
Yeah, PASZ. So I am a member of PASZ, and which in my experience is a group of very hardworking, dedicated, reasonable people who care deeply about the community and want the city to follow its own zoning codes. And so that said, I'm not sure that I agree with the proposal to make city council full-time paid employees. Larger communities do that. I'm not sure we're ready for that. We may need it at some point. As far as the city council size, I don't support reducing the size from 9 to 7. The arguments in favor of keeping it at 9, in my opinion, the compelling ones are, we have a $550 million budget and a 9-member board of directors on a publicly traded $550 million company. 9 people on the board would not be unreasonable. I know it's not an exact analogy. And the other argument is the Stanford recusal problem, which I think is significant. The arguments against, the arguments to reduce it are, basically to make meetings go faster, which I think, better meeting management can handle.
Thank
so
you.
I don't see it.
Mr. Du Bois.
Well, I wrote the ballot measure against the reduction, so I think that might answer the question.
Okay.
To me, it's a question of representation versus efficiency. Our city council is really volunteers for the region. We're on so many regional boards. I think 9 people makes it a position that a working person like me can actually consider running for council. And I think reducing it would give more power to incumbents. We have 12 candidates. I think we have a healthy community, and we should keep it at 9. And also, it got put on the ballot by a 5-4 vote. It was pretty tepid, and even people that voted for it said they were 51% for it. So I'm not even sure why it's on the ballot. I am a member of PAS, and as Eric said, it's really representatives from all over the city. A lot of members of our neighborhood associations participate. I am not personally in favor of a full salary for city council. I view it as public service. I really think we should look at if the amount we pay is in line with surrounding areas for similar part-time pay.
Thank you. Ms. Shepherd.
Thank you. I am not taking a position on reducing council size. I'm not going to endorse either way, even though I am one that did put it on the ballot. I was a 4951, put it on the ballot. I have heard from this community ever since I've moved here that they're shocked to have a 9-member council, and they would like, and so I wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to vote on this, since we had a council that was willing to put it on the ballot. I am not a member of PAS. I have met with them earlier this year as mayor to work on some of the issues that we were trying to debrief after the, as the year got launched, and we started the process of the community conversation. And it was a wonderful meeting with them. And yet, I think they're campaign committee still. And so I am not sure what their involvement on the campaign is right now at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scharf.
Thank you. I also oppose the council reduction. I think a diversity of viewpoints has been very helpful on council, and I appreciate the larger council size. It gives more community liaisons. There are more people to respond. Frankly, there are more people to read the consent items on calendar. Having a larger council size has all sorts of benefits. And I have to say, sitting on council, whenever we have 7, because sometimes one person's recused and another person's not there, meetings never seem to go shorter. And frankly, transparency is something we really value in this community. And having 9 people creates more transparency. Having 7 creates less. So I think we should definitely support keeping the 9. I'm not a member of PAS. And what was the other part of the question?
Do you support
the full
their
salary?
proposal?
No,
Yes.
I absolutely do not support the full salary. There is no community in America that's our size that has a full salary for city council that I'm aware of, and definitely not in the Bay Area. I mean, you get to cities of over 1 million like San Jose and San Francisco. You don't get our size.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss?
I cannot possibly answer this in 200 words, but I can answer it on my blog, Plastic Alto, in 500 words by 10 a.m. tomorrow. Check it out, Plastic Alto. This is a weird question. It reminds me of the David Byrne Puzzling Evidence song, which I won't sing, from the True Stories. We shouldn't even be wasting our time with this question. It's very strange. I hadn't thought of juxtaposing those 2 points. PASZ, I think, is like the phrase, are we trying to build a castle with too few bricks? As Mr. Frederick pointed out, it's sort of a red herring and non-representative going forward. I actually wrote an alternative argument against the 9 to 7 thing that Donna Greiter and Seelam, Reddy, and I wrote it, and Tim Gray contributed, and Donna picked his or their statement. I'm questioning the salaries of some of our senior level staff, if that's related. But no, I do this out of love for my community.
Thank you. Ms. Holman.
Definitely do not support the reduction of the council from 9 to 7. It's a concentration of the workload, which is already extensive, and it reduces representation to the community. It's a community that has, Stanford, our own utilities are about to take over the airport, so don't support that. I'm going to speak quickly here because there's something I want to get to. Not a member of PAS, having to do with compensation. I don't think council members ought to be paid as full-time employees. However, I think that there ought to be some recognition of what the heavy workload is, because I do have concerns that only the people who are in the higher income levels can afford to serve on council. So I do have concerns about us having an eclectic council. The other thing I wanted to get to was thank you, Wayne, for bringing up the 27 University, because I did oppose and raise concerns significantly throughout the period, both publicly and privately, about what was going on regarding that project, and that evidence is borne out in the public records request. And even once the project came to the council in a public forum, I had issues with and expressed concerns about how vaguely the project was described even after it went on the city's website. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Koo?
I do not support the reduction to council size. It is the argument is that it will make it more efficient, but I don't see that happening even today, when there are council members who are absent. And also, it does keep transparency and diversity within the council. I also feel that with the number of council members on there, with the 9, at least we have a chance of residents who are everyday people who live here in the neighborhoods and in this city. We have a chance of actually running for council. Am I a member of Palo Alto's from the Sensible Zoning? Yes, I am. I actually was a member when it was a Maybell Action Group, and then it evolved into Palo Altans to preserve neighborhood zoning, and today it is Palo Altans for Sensible Zoning. So I have been a member all the time. Keeping it, do I support full-time pay? No, I don't.
Thank you. Mr. Woolback.
So there are actually 3 questions here. Am I a member of PAS? Do I support council size reduction? And do I support full-time pay? I'm going to take the am I a member of PAS first. No, I'm not a member of PAS, but since we've given them so much airtime, I'd like to give another shout out. I am a member of Palo Alto Forward, although I'm not a leading member. I've joined that group. It represents an interesting diversity of views about transportation, housing, and I like their approach of being very open to new ideas and looking at data with a very critical eye. On council size reduction and, 30 seconds left. On council size reduction and full-time pay, these are actually intertwined. I'm not in favor of council size reduction. Although we don't have a huge city, we have a huge workload for our city council, and I'm looking to add to it by having more neighborhood meetings with council members present. So I'm not in favor of reducing the council size. If it does pass, that's a sign that Palo Altans do want a full-time professional council. If Measure D this year does pass, then I would be in favor of increasing the salary to full-time.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick.
I'm against the reduction in council size. I don't think it should be on the ballot. I think issues like that are charter changes need to be talked about and worked through at a much slower pace. Say direct election of mayor, election by districts. One that I'm quite in favor of, a 2-year term of office rather than 4. All those things need a lot of vetting in the public arena before they're put on the ballot. Pay, are we talking $15 or $20 an hour here? First question. Secondly, I see it as a public service. I've been a school teacher. I never got what I thought was full rate as a school teacher, but because I have a pension now, I'm independently wealthy. And as for a member of PAS, I'm waiting for the definition of sensible zoning. right? We know sensible dessert eating is don't eat the whole tray. I'm not sure what sensible zoning is yet.
Thank you. Mr. Johnston.
So I'm not a member of PAS. I do not favor full-time pay for council members. I think serving on the city council is a privilege. It's a community service, and it should be regarded as such, and I don't think it would benefit the community to have full-time people who are full-time, fully paid people serving on the council. On the Measure D, I've listened to the arguments on both sides, and I see merit in both sides, frankly. I see the transparency point. I see the more access point. I also understand the efficiency point, and I'm just not going to take a position on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Reddy.
So let's be innovative. So we could have 9, we could have 10, but no less. I think we want more representation. But also I think we want representation from all sides of South Palo Alto, Midtown, by the freeway. So I think that would be a better thing than limiting to 7. So as far as the member of PAS, no, I'm not. I'm a member of AAA, for you to know. I have a 10-year-old car. It runs well. I haven't changed oil 27,000 miles, but it's still okay. So I want a proposal where I want Jim Keane to go and buy a $2 million White House, a painted White House, and have a 9 bedrooms so we can all sleep there and be more, communicative between each other. So that's an innovative proposal. So, and I don't want anybody to give me any money unless I deserve it. So I don't want anything. Thank you. Boeing already gives me pension, and my children will give me what I need. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now going to be moving to the part of our agenda for closing statements. And a reminder that each candidate has 2 minutes. This is your opportunity to mention something that perhaps you didn't have the chance to already. And we will hear from them in the reverse order of the opening statements. So we will be starting with Mr. Filsef over there. He is number 1, and we'll be going right down the line.
Okay. So I am also a member of AAA. Right? So these things are not incompatible. Right. Yeah, I think the reason we're all here, and thank everybody for staying awake here, is that Palo Alto is really at an inflection point right now. We from the 1970 to 2000, we grew at 0.2% a year or something like that. In the last 3 years, we're growing at 1.6% a year. So there's been a huge hockey stick here, right? And the character of our city, is starting to change quickly, right? And I think at this, we sort of let it happen. I think Tom alluded to the point of, geez, who's driving this? Is the council driving this, or is the staff bringing proposals and the council's reviewing them and so forth? I think the city council needs to get out and drive the vision of what Palo Alto is going to be. And I don't mean in 10 years, but I mean 20, 30, 40 years. Because we're going to make decisions that determine what Palo Alto is going to look like for many decades to come. Okay? City council should be responsible for vision, policy, and oversight. The city council should be supplying the vision, and the city staff should be executing it, as opposed to the other way around. And I think we really need to get out in front of this kind of stuff. I'm a system guy. I'm an engineer. I'm a system guy. I think that I agree with, to paraphrase Yogi Berra, if you don't plan for it, that's what you get, right? I think we need to plan, right? Why can I do this? I've got the experience. I've been a manager for many, many years. I know how to lead organizations. I know how to lead complex projects. I know how to manage finances. I've got the skills. People tell me one of the things that they like about me is that I can look at a really complicated problem full of conflicting and confusing data and sort through it quickly and find out what the important issues are. And I think that's going to be really valuable in government. And finally, I've got the community values. I'm doing this not because it's a stepping stone to a career in politics or anything like that. I'm a resident, and this is what I want for my town. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss?
I spared you from singing David Byrne, but I'm gonna quote a lyric that I wrote up here. This is from 1967. It's a Nina Simone song. I won't sing it, but I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could share all the love in my heart, say it loud, say it clear for the whole round world to hear. I wish I could do all the things I can do. As you'll notice, I am a standout in this panel on certain levels, but a different approach. I'm in the arts. But it's also true that I've been here since '74 in this community, I would say longer than anyone but Mr. Frederick. And I am unique, Corey and I, in that we are the only two products of local schools. I would say more than anyone else, I believe, at age 50 to his 35, Palo Alto has made me what I am, and I feel I'm the most organic candidate to step up in this pretty critical time. I happened to run into Michael McFall the other night. He gave a lecture at World Affairs. He's at the Hoover Institute. He's a Rhodes Fellow. He was our ambassador to Russia. He is the son of a music teacher. And I was asking him, I knew him years ago when he was an undergrad. We went to a concert together once. I said, how does listening to music train your ear for diplomacy? And I do think the 20 years I've been running concerts at Earthwise Productions of Palo Alto at Cubberley, I do artist management, it has given me a unique ability to hear false notes and clams from our current leadership, which you can tell I'm a little disappointed in. I was trained as a journalist at the Times Tribune. I was the editor-in-chief of the Oracle. I was student body president at Terman. I claim in my ballot statement that in the tradition of Joe Simitian, Yahweh Ye, and Gary Fazzino, I am a product of the local student council leadership, hoping to make my mark in the real world. And I hope you have a chance to consider me. Vote all 5 of your votes. That's the most democratic thing. And read my blog, Plastic Alto.
Thank you. Ms. Shepard?
Somehow we've ended up with all of the microphones here. I have to say, working these 5 years on City Council has been really a privilege. I've worked deeply in this community for decades before I got on City Council. I learned from this community how it likes to be treated, how it wants to be asked permission and not forgiveness when we're doing things. I've worked hard to build collaborations and relationships throughout the years so that we can bring our neighborhoods together. I meet with many people as an elected official, and even more now that I'm mayor. The Our Palo Alto conversation, yes, it's just getting launched, but it's the conversation that we need to have. It's an important conversation for us to show up together and be present with each other to find our way forward. Council is the keeper of the vision of the city of Palo Alto. All of this work funnels into that project called the Comprehensive Plan, where we do our visioning and then we put our policies and our programs into place in order to have the built community that we want to have, but also have the organized community that we want to have, because it has a lot of the elements in there for transportation and governance. This is behind schedule, and you can tell we're having a conversation right now about how we want to bring Palo Alto into the future. And I like having that conversation. It's the type that I like to have. So I've been focused on that while also getting much of the work done this year on City Council. And we've really changed throughout these 5 years. And I think we're in a much better position to pivot and to go directly into some of the interests that the community has. I would like to ask for your vote to get me reelected. I am being endorsed by Anna Eshu and Joe Samidian right over here, and Rich Gordon, just people that I have developed relationships with in order to move Palo Alto forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Frederick?
I grew up in Wisconsin and then came here and came of age here in Palo Alto when the war was on in Vietnam, and a lot of turbulence in the streets. And I think that as I reflect back on that, I'd be remiss in my duty as a purported leader here if I didn't mention the crisis in the world and how it impacts us. The war that's been going on, the wars that have been going on for over a decade, the crisis with the environment, and I don't just mean our drought here, but I mean management of natural resources in an ever-increasing world in which the demands are serious and need our attention. And although we don't have to square up on those directly at the City Council, we do have to affirm our values as a nation, as they were set forth in the Declaration of Independence, that the people have a right to self-government and they have a right to change their government if it's not working in the right order. And with that in mind, that's why I said here at the beginning, made light of the fact of the voters, and how many of you people had voted for me. And I know some of you had, you know, don't feel, I know it's embarrassing to raise your hand in public, but the voters are the critical factor here. If we can come to some agreement as to how we're going to do this, we can make some real headway here and be an example to the nation rather than something of a joke on the peninsula. And I think we're going to have to do that. And time is short. As I said, when I ran a decade ago, I ran on many of the issues that are in play right now. My positions are for people that don't have a computer, I have them on hard copy. And for people that need to get to my site, here's my website on the back of my calling card, and the Smart Voter site I also recommend.
Thank you. Mr. Scharf.
Thank you, and thanks again to the League for hosting this event and all of you for coming out today. Traffic, parking, building design, and scale, loss of retail are very concerning to me. I recognize that these are problems. I recognize we need to do something about them, and I recognize that staff has been directed to come up with initiatives and that we're working on these issues. Yes, we're working on these issues to address the parking and traffic issues. As mayor, I called for a timeout on the PC process. I think that's been successful. I'm really glad we did that, and I think we can look at these issues carefully and thoughtfully. Palo Alto is going to continue to experience pressures for change. It's how we manage that change that matters. And we need to manage it in a thoughtful and careful and collaborative way that involves the community and looks to what we want to do as a city. 5 years ago when I ran for city council, our streets were in disrepair. There was no plan to address our aging infrastructure. Pension and benefit costs were literally out of control. Vacancy rate downtown was 15%, and our budget was a sea of red ink for the next 20 years, and lots of city services were on the chopping block. I think we need to remember that. Today, we have doubled what we spend on fixing our streets, and our pavement condition index is rapidly climbing. That means that we are fixing the potholes. And that is something that is very important for a city council member to do, is to fix the potholes. We have surpluses. We are in basically the diametrically opposite position than we were in 2009. However, we do have parking and traffic, and we are working on those, and I take those issues very seriously. So I want to say that I'm honored to have broad support from members of our community, from Congressman Anna Eshoo, Supervisor Joe Simidian, Assemblyman Rich Gordon, Senator Jerry Hill, and all of our current school board members and many of our past ones, former mayors, current and past council members, as well as neighborhood leaders such as Sherry Furman, Annette Glankoff, Penny Ellison, and Ken Allen, and Barron Park resident and community leader Bob Moss, as well as many other residents of Palo Alto. And I hope I've earned your support as well. Thank you.
Mr. Reddy.
You see, there are 11 other candidates. They're all good-looking and beautiful. So why would you ever want to vote for an ugly guy? You know, I think twice, right? So I am a humble person, came wherever I came from. I made whatever I made. I worked 35 years, worked for Ludlow Measurements in Texas, came to Aerojet, built all the ammunition that killed all these evil people. Then went to Northrop, we worked on a guidance system, came to Hughes, built a DirecTV business, and Pan Am Sat mergers and acquisitions, and came to Boeing twice. I worked before too. So I have a great opportunity. I've had great opportunities, and I would love to serve you, earn your vote, do the best I can, have the integrity to have no scandals, be open, and so I've been endorsed by my mom, who passed away on November 9th last year, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Holman.
Thank you. Palo Alto is really a fabulous community. It's a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to work. And it's a very affluent community. And I think with that good fortune come responsibilities. It has responsibilities, I think, to support diversity, and whether that's our residents or whether our types of businesses, I think that's something that we really need to enhance and support and enrich. As I don't think I answered this before. I'm not a member of PAS, but before the election and after the election, I reached out to members of that community because I wanted them to understand where I was coming from in supporting the Maybell project, and also understand where they were coming from in not supporting that project, and what the other consequences were about issues around development in general. So we have had a meeting of the minds, not to a person, but I think that dialogue is what's important. That we continue that dialogue. That we're going to agree to disagree at times, but if we stop having the dialogue, we're really in trouble. We're really in trouble. So what I bring to this is 13 years of appointed and elected experience. My planning background will help immensely if I'm chosen again to serve in terms of doing the comprehensive plan update and zoning changes that we need to do, including, I think, protecting the local independent businesses on California Avenue so they aren't lost. And if you love this place the way that I do, it requires attention, not just, here, up here among these 12 candidates, but it also requires your attention. I encourage you to get to know the candidates, go to the websites, and make informed, and I know you will or you wouldn't be here, but tell your friends, too, that aren't here. It takes an intelligent community as such as this is to make informed and intelligent choices, and I encourage you to do that. Whatever you do, vote. I really encourage you to do that. I've been endorsed by Jerry Hill, Rich Gordon, a number of current and former city council members, and encourage you to go to my website. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wolbach.
I began this race with a hope, and that was a hope that Palo Altans were ready to move past a very incivil discourse that we've had over the last couple of years, where traffic and finding a place to live, finding a place to drive your car, or finding a roof over your head have been pitted against each other, when really they need to be solved in conjunction. I was warned by some of the political establishment, don't talk about housing. Don't push. This is the year of the residentialists. This is the year of zero growth. And I said, this is the year of Palo Altans coming together. This is the year of Palo Altans focusing on how we are going to come together and create a civil, inclusive, and sustainable future together. This was my hope. As I've been knocking on doors and going to meetings around Palo Alto, my hope has turned into confidence. I've heard it across this community, from people who describe themselves as residentialists, from people who describe themselves as longtime Palo Altans, from people who want the height limit reduced to 30 feet, from people who want skyscrapers up and down El Camino. By the way, I'm in favor of keeping it 50. People want to work together in Palo Alto. They want a civil, inclusive, sustainable future, and we can do that by working together. In fact, we have to do it by working together. Building design and community physical design matters an awful lot, but community character is not about physical structures. Community character is about the people who live in the community, the people who are able to continue to live in the community, and how they interact with each other. That is what community character is about. There's a lot of things that we didn't get a chance to talk about today. I didn't get a chance to mention earlier, so I'll say it now. I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club and the League of Conservation Voters, and a lot of other people. Please look at my website, CoreyWolbach.com. Please help. I'm not taking a dime from developers or a dime from labor unions or a dime over $500 per donor, so I'm going to need your help. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Du Bois.
This election is not about standing still or going back to the past. It's about moving Palo Alto forward in a way that's consistent with residents' desires. So when making decisions, I always keep that in mind. Is this action good for residents? I'll listen to you and I'll work hard to remain connected to our many neighborhoods. I'm a bit of a data wonk. I will roll up my sleeves and dig into the details. I'll come prepared to council meetings, and I'll focus on a data-driven, efficient, and fair system. You should vote for people that you know where they stand, not people who haven't made up their mind. And so my first 60 days in office, I'll bring forth proposals to address some of our large underlying issues. The first, I'd like to propose updates to our outdated assumptions about how much parking is needed per square foot of office space. Second, I'd like to introduce policies to run more efficient council meetings. And third, I'd like to propose reforms of our Architectural Review Board. I've been endorsed by over 200 neighbors and leaders from across the city, among them many leading residentialists and environmentalists, including the Sierra Club. So I'm ready to work hard for you. If you share my vision for the future of Palo Alto, I ask for your support and your vote on September 4th.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas?
November 4th.
Whatever. Yeah. Let me get back my theme from a different way. When I first came to California in 1980, I thought maybe I'd live in San Francisco, and I decided not to. I didn't like it up there. But anyway, I told you I didn't have a car, so I was riding around in public transportation. And what intrigued me about the people in Palo Alto is the diversity. I could ride on the bus and hear people talking French and people talking Russian. And that's kind of cool because Vermont was a backwater when I grew up, and it's only slightly improved now as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, in fact, when I was looking for companionship, people to get to know, I was drawn to the French Ciné Club of Palo Alto. I don't know if any of you were regular attendees there, but when Hélène de la Roche-Davis ran the show, that's when I got to know her and the people there. I eventually became her projectionist. And another anecdote, I like to tell stories. I'm a literary guy, you know, I like stories. I'll tell you one about diversity and about me. When my wife and I bought our house on Matadero, I told her at the time it was the cheapest house in Palo Alto, and it still is, only it's worth 3 times the money. One day I walked out onto my front porch, and off to the left on the corner of Matadero and Park was a Japanese family. The parents had been interned. And then a couple of doors down, right across the street from me, was a black lady who came from Arkansas to build ships in Richmond. She was not Rosie the Riveter. She was a welder, as I remember. She's dead now, poor lady. Great lady. And 2 doors down from her were Chester, or his real name in Polish is Czesław. I knew him before I became his neighbor because he liked to buy Westerns at thrift stores, because the English was easy for him to understand. And Ursula, they were in Danzig when Hitler invaded Poland. Now, if that isn't diversity, I don't know what it is, and I loved it. Thank you.
Mr. Johnston.
I want to thank the League again for giving us this opportunity to come and speak, and all the people who stayed and listened to this. I really appreciate it. You've heard a lot tonight about different visions for moving the city forward. As the center of what's one of the most dynamic regions in the entire world, I don't think we can turn the clock back, lock the gates, and say no more. That's just not who we are, and it's not who we should be. But we can be smarter about how we go forward. We can insist that anyone who wants to build in Palo Alto, they have to play by our rules. And we have to insist that they provide the benefits that they claim they're going to provide. I think it doesn't need to be easy to build in Palo Alto. It should be hard. But I do think we need to build and provide for more affordable housing and a broader range of housing options. Wouldn't it be nice if all of our children could afford to come to Palo Alto? Wouldn't it be nice if our teachers and firefighters and police officers could afford to live in Palo Alto and be a part of our community? They are an important part of our community. But for many of them, they can't live here. Wouldn't it be nice that our seniors who want to downsize, as my wife and I did, wouldn't it be nice if they could find a place to live and not have to move out of the community? So I think we can do all this and still preserve the exceptional quality of life that really brought us all here in the first place. And I think we can do it while enhancing our environmental sustainability. I will bring a balanced, analytical approach to the problems at City Hall. My experience has been in resolving large, complicated issues. I think that's something for people who are in disputes. I think it's an issue. That's a skill that could be quite useful in City Hall right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Quo.
Let me ask you all some questions for you to ponder to yourself. I'll start with, why did you choose to live in Palo Alto? The nationally ranked schools, the weather, the location, belonging to a community, or did you move here for the traffic congestion? Or was it for the stress of driving around and around in circles looking for a parking spot, worrying about being late meeting friends for dinner? What about cut-through traffic on your residential streets that make it less safe for you and especially your children? Or finding that your residential street has just become a parking lot for commercial buildings that didn't provide enough parking for their tenants? Or that when you go to pick up your kid from play dates, that the lack of parking means that you can't go in and interact with the other parent? Do you need to call ahead so your kid is ready and waiting on the street to be picked up? As you go about town, do you prefer your impression to not be that of trees, but of buildings, especially bland and ugly buildings? I don't think so. This is Palo Alto, not Building Alto, or more properly, Edificio Alto. After 4 years of growth for the sake of growing, it will change this city to one that is unrecognizable. It will not be a college town or that village, but a city that is in constant gridlock and crisis mode. First step in solving a problem is recognizing that there is one. In order to address the problem, we need a different majority on council. Tonight, I'm asking you for your vote for me and also to choose carefully and vote for a new council majority of like-minded representatives who places residents' priorities first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to give our candidates all a great big hand. It was a wonderful... And I would also like to thank our volunteers who made this forum a success: Valerie Stinger, Mary Alice Thornton, and Nancy Peterson. And give them a hand. And finally, I want to thank you all for being such an attentive audience who followed the rules and asking such good questions. And now let me pass the mic back to Ellen for some closing remarks. I know, we ended up with 3 of them.
Thank you. This has been a very enlightening and civil evening, I'm glad to say. And there are many people to thank, beginning with our moderator, Ellen Yake. Thank you. We have thanked the candidates for your engaging in this lively discussion to assist voters in making their decisions. Special thanks to the Chair of Voter Service for the League of Women Voters, Trina Lovercheck, who spent many hours coordinating this. And thanks to our timekeeper, Larry Lovercheck, and our question sorters, Phyllis Castle from the League and Susan Usman from the PTA Council. And to all the other volunteers who made this possible. Finally, thank you for coming out tonight, and please do vote. Good night.